I'm Grace, and I'm 54 years old. The day I was told I was banned from the company's annual award ceremony, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there, blinking, while the HR manager avoided my eyes. We just think, under the circumstances, it's best for the company's image. Those were her exact words. Cold, sharp, final. I walked out of her office, heels clicking against the tiled floor, each step louder than the next. My hands trembled slightly, but I didn't stop. Not even when I passed by my assistant's desk. Her eyes wide, her face pale. She knew. Everyone knew. I had become the woman who got thrown out of the company's spotlight after 29 years of loyal work. Just like that. No warning, no hearing, just a shadow hanging over me from a mistake I didn't make. Let me tell you something. When you give your life to a place, you think it'll give you something back. Not money, not even awards, just respect. But that respect vanished faster than a balance on a maxed out credit card. And I'll be honest, I wanted revenge. But instead, I did something no one expected. I told the truth. One email. That's all it took. But before I sent it, I had to walk through fire. Because the truth didn't just expose the people who betrayed me. It forced me to face the part of myself I had buried years ago. It started 6 weeks before the ceremony. I was sitting in the executive lounge, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup, when I overheard something I wasn't meant to hear. 2 junior associates, barely 30, both dressed like luxury catalogs, were laughing near the vending machine. She really thinks she's gonna win the Lifetime Impact Award. Grace? Please. The only impact she's made is slowing things down. Their laughter cut through me like glass. I turned my face toward the window, pretended not to care. But inside, something cracked. I had built the foundation those kids were standing on. I was there when the company had 5 employees and a rented office space the size of a closet. I remembered the first bank loan, the all-nighters, the business trips we couldn't afford. But suddenly, that history didn't count. What counted now were numbers, speed, image, and someone had made sure mine was ruined. At first, it was small things. Budget reports went missing. A client I'd been courting for months suddenly backed out, without reason. Then the CFO, Thomas, who used to be my friend, stopped replying to my emails. Then came the whisper, a misappropriation of funds. An anonymous tip, they said. Convenient, right? No one said it was me. But no one defended me either. HR launched an informal investigation. My access to the company's financial dashboard was removed. Meetings I used to lead were canceled or moved without notice. Still, I stayed quiet. Why? Because I believed in the system. I thought if I just waited, the truth would come out. It didn't. What came was a phone call. Grace, I need you to come down to HR, the assistant said, voice tight. I walked into the office thinking they might apologize. Instead, they handed me a letter. Grace Turner will not be attending the annual recognition gala due to internal considerations. I looked up. What internal considerations? The HR manager wouldn't answer. I said, "You know I didn't do anything wrong." She only nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, Grace." But she wasn't. They were all afraid of the truth. Or worse, afraid of someone higher up. So I walked out. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the letter. My husband, Mark, was at his brother's place. My daughter, Emily, hadn't called in weeks, not since our fight about her new boyfriend and the loan she took out behind my back. I had no one to talk to, no one who'd understand. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I opened my Bible. The pages were worn, the leather cracked. I hadn't read it in so long, I almost felt ashamed. But it opened to a verse I remembered from when I was young. The truth shall set you free. John 8:32. My hands started shaking, not out of fear, but something else. Resolve. That night, I started digging. I stayed up until 3 a.m., going through old files, paper statements, printed invoices. I even called a retired accountant who had worked with me years ago. And what I found made my heart stop. A new manager, Ryan Bell, had rerouted vendor payments through a consulting firm that didn't exist a year ago. Guess whose name was on some of the transfers? Mine. He was laundering money and using my access as cover. I stared at the documents, stunned. He thought I'd never notice. He thought I was too old, too tired, too loyal. But he forgot one thing. I built this place, and I wasn't going down quietly. The next morning, I put together the email. It had everything: screenshots, document scans, names, dates, payment trails. But before I hit send, I paused. My hand hovered over the mouse. If I sent this, it would explode. Not just Ryan. The CFO, Thomas, might go down too. Maybe even the CEO. People would hate me. People I used to care about. But I remembered something my grandmother once told me when I was a child. Truth isn't gentle. It's a sword. But sometimes, a sword is the only thing that cuts through lies. So I sent it to the board, to HR, and to every single director in the company. I hit send. Then I sat back and waited. And oh, did they answer? By noon, the company was on fire. Phones rang nonstop. Emails flooded in. People who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly checking in. But it wasn't concern. It was panic. By the end of the day, the CEO's assistant, Karen, called me. Grace, he wants to see you, personally. I paused. Now, in an hour. His office. I almost laughed. For years, I had waited outside that office for meetings that always started late. Now, suddenly, I was a priority. When I arrived, the hallway was quiet. Too quiet. Karen gave me a nervous smile and opened the door. He's waiting. The CEO, Vincent Cole, stood when I entered. 61. Immaculate seat. Hair always in place, like he never sweated. Not even in summer. Grace, he said, offering his hand. Please, sit. I didn't. I'll stand. He nodded, lips pressed tight. I've read the email, he said. And you've uncovered something serious. Very serious. Are you surprised? He hesitated. That told me everything. Grace, you've been with us since the beginning. I never imagined that I'd fight back. I cut in. His jaw tightened. You must understand. We were under pressure. There were rumors. I didn't leak a cent. Ryan did. He sighed. We'll launch a formal investigation immediately. Ryan has been suspended. And what about me? You'll be reinstated, quietly, full access restored. And the ceremony? His eyes flicked down to his desk. There's no time to change the program, but we can arrange a private. No, I interrupted. I don't want anything private. I want the same stage everyone else gets. Vincent looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. You'll be there. And just like that, I was back. But it wasn't over. Because that email had done more than expose fraud. It shook the company to its core. People started whispering again, but not like before. Now it was. She stood up. She took them on. She didn't stay quiet. I walked through the halls like a ghost reborn. People looked at me differently, not with pity, but with respect and fear, especially Thomas, the CFO. He avoided me like I carried a ticking bomb. One afternoon, I cornered him by the elevator. "You knew," I said, his face flushed. "I didn't think it would go this far. You signed off on fake invoices." I was pressured. "Ryan said it was temporary. He said you'd approved it." I took a step closer. "You watched me get pushed out and said nothing." "I'm sorry." "No," I said, voice calm. "You're afraid." He didn't deny it. After that, he avoided me altogether. But not everyone disappeared. Some came closer, like Marlene. She was the new intern coordinator, mid-40s, tough as nails with kind eyes. "Grace," she said one day in the break room, "I don't know how you did it." I shrugged. I just couldn't let it go. "No," she said, placing a hand over mine. "You reminded us we don't have to stay silent." Turns out, Marlene had been quietly documenting complaints too. Harassment, misuse of power, mistreatment of junior staff. One by one, the older employees began talking. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about truth and healing. At home, things were shifting too. My daughter, Emily, called unexpectedly. "Mom," she said, "I saw your name on the company news. Are you okay?" I told her everything. For the first time in months, she listened. Really listened. "I'm sorry for what I said," she whispered. "About the loan, about everything." I swallowed hard. "Me too, baby." "Do you still have the Bible?" she asked. I smiled. "Right next to the coffee maker." "Can we read something together?" My throat tightened. "Yes, anytime." That night, we read Psalm 91 over the phone. "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." I didn't sleep much after, but my heart felt lighter. The days leading up to the ceremony were tense. HR was in overdrive. Legal teams combed through files. And Ryan? Gone. Just like that. No farewell email, no goodbyes. Vanished like a luxury ghost. But the deeper they dug, the worse it got. Turns out, he wasn't alone. 3 other executives had been quietly siphoning company funds through shell firms, all using my department's credentials. They had framed me because I was the easiest scapegoat. I was old school, not flashy. No social media presence, no alliances with the newer, louder voices in upper management. I was invisible until I wasn't. The board announced a sweeping internal audit. Some cheered, others panicked, and in the middle of it all, I was asked to give a speech at the gala. "The board thinks it would send a strong message," Karen told me, cautiously. "What kind of message?" "That the company stands for integrity." I almost laughed, but I said yes, because the truth wasn't finished yet. At home, Mark sat across the table, watching me read my notes. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. "I don't want to," I admitted. "But I need to." He nodded. "Then you do it with your head high. And heels higher," I smiled. But the weight in my chest didn't leave, because behind the triumph, there was still pain. Pain from knowing how easily they cast me aside. Pain from the silence of people I trusted. Pain from the years I gave without ever asking for anything back. But that's the thing about pain. It can crush you, or it can cleanse you. The night before the gala, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the city lights blink like distant promises. That's when Marlene called. "There's something you should know." I straightened. "It's Thomas," she said. "He's trying to take credit for the audit." "What?" "He's telling people he initiated it, that he's the one who uncovered Ryan's trail." My stomach turned. Of course he was. He was trying to save himself and using my work to do it. I clenched the phone. Let him try. Are you sure? Yes, I said quietly, because tomorrow I speak, and they'll hear the truth. The night of the gala arrived like a storm hiding behind velvet curtains. The hotel ballroom glittered with chandeliers, crystal glasses, and people dressed like royalty. But beneath the surface, there was tension. Eyes shifted, smiles were tight. Conversation stopped when I walked by. I wore navy blue, simple, sharp, no glitter, no statement necklace, just confidence. Karen greeted me near the stage. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded. Would have been awkward if I hadn't. She forced a smile. As I made my way to the table, I noticed Thomas sitting near the front with his wife. He didn't meet my eyes. Good. I wasn't here to exchange pleasantries. Vincent opened the evening with polished charm, thanking sponsors and praising the resilience of our team during trying times. Then came the awards. One by one, names were called. Applause, smiles for the cameras, until... And now, Vincent announced, the Lifetime Impact Award. A beat of silence goes to someone whose dedication, integrity, and relentless pursuit of excellence has shaped the very heart of this company. He turned to me. Grace Turner. The applause was uneven at first, then louder. I rose slowly, heart pounding. As I stepped onto the stage, I felt every step like a weight lifting off me. I took the mic. Thank you, Vincent, and thank you to the board. I paused. For 29 years, I've walked these halls. I've seen this company grow from a borrowed desk and an unpaid intern to a global firm. I've seen triumphs, and I've seen mistakes. I looked at the crowd, but nothing compares to what I saw these past few weeks. You could feel the room shift. A system is only as strong as the people willing to defend it. When corruption seeps in quietly, when good people stay silent out of fear, the foundation cracks. I looked at Thomas, and I refused to let it crack on my watch. People shifted in their seats. I didn't come back tonight for revenge. I came to remind us that truth, no matter how inconvenient, is the only light strong enough to burn through shadow. I paused, and as scripture reminds us, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. Silence. Then applause. Real. Earnest. I stepped down without waiting for a handshake. Back at my table, Marlene had tears in her eyes. You just lit a fire, she whispered. No, I said. I just struck the match. Let's see what burns. The morning after the gala, I expected quiet. Instead, my phone exploded with messages. Some were from colleagues I hadn't heard from in years. Grace, I'm speechless. I had no idea you went through that. You gave us all courage last night. But the message that stopped me came from Vincent himself. We need to talk, urgently. At 8:30 a.m., I was in his office. He didn't offer coffee, didn't stand. I wanted to be the first to tell you, he said, face pale. Thomas resigned this morning. I blinked. Resigned? With immediate effect, he left a note. No statement. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. Because it wasn't over. Ryan, he's under criminal investigation now. The board voted last night to cooperate with authorities. My chest tightened. It was happening. Everything I feared would be buried was coming to light. Then Vincent looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Respect. We need you, Grace, he said, not just in your old role. What are you saying? I want you on the Ethics and Oversight Committee. Lead it. I stared. That committee was created during a crisis 3 years ago. It had always been symbolic, weak, window dressing, until now. You want me to clean house? He nodded. And keep it clean. I leaned back in the chair. After everything they put me through, now they needed me to save them. I thought of walking away, but then I thought of Marlene, of the interns, of the women and men who stayed silent because they thought they had no choice. If I left now, someone else like me would be crushed next. So I nodded. I'll take it. Vincent sighed in relief. You're doing the right thing. I looked at him, dead in the eye. For once, so are you. Stepping into my new role wasn't a victory parade. It was war. The Ethics and Oversight Committee was nothing more than a dusty folder when I took over. No process, no power, just empty policies, written to keep shareholders quiet. I changed that. First, I called Marlene, then 2 others, Anna from HR and Paul from logistics. People I trusted, people who had nothing to prove and everything to protect. We didn't wear badges. We asked questions. And people started talking. Not everyone liked it. One department head threatened to resign. Another tried to pull rank in a board meeting. But I didn't flinch. Because this wasn't about comfort, it was about conscience. Meanwhile, internal audits turned up more rot, small things this time. Expense reports padded with false entries. Procurement contracts awarded to cousins. A senior manager using company credit cards for luxury vacations labeled as client wellness retreats. Every week brought a new reckoning, but it wasn't just cleaning house. It was rebuilding trust. I started holding open-door meetings every Thursday. No scripts, no agendas, just space for people to speak. And they came. One woman, Maria, in her 60s, cried in my office. She'd been denied promotion 3 times, always passed over for younger, less qualified men. I stopped believing I mattered, she said. You do now, I told her, and you always did. We promoted her within the month. Word spread fast, but outside the office, change rippled in quieter ways. Emily, my daughter, started calling more. One night she said, Mom, I told my friend about you, about what you did. I smiled. Oh, yeah? What did you say? I said you were the bravest woman I know. My voice caught. Thanks, honey. Then she added softly, Can we have dinner this week? Just us. That dinner turned into a weekly ritual. Laughter replaced distance. Trust replaced guilt. At church, I started volunteering again, helping with finance classes for women starting over after divorce or loss. One evening, a woman with tired eyes told me, I thought I was too old to begin again. I squeezed her hand. So did I. And I was wrong. 3 months passed. The company looked the same on the outside, but inside, everything had shifted. People walked differently in the halls, less guarded, more present. The fear that once clouded every corner had lifted. But it wasn't magic. It was accountability. Every policy I rewrote came from something real, something someone had suffered. We introduced anonymous reporting, protected witnesses, transparent reviews. The board? Reluctant at first, then supportive, especially after the media started asking questions. And I refused interviews. I didn't want the spotlight. I wanted change. One morning, Marlene stopped by my office with a cup of tea. You never told me why you stayed, she said, gently. I thought for a moment. I stayed because the woman I used to be would have given up. And I'm not her anymore. We sat in silence. I remembered the old Grace, silent, loyal, invisible. I had mourned her, but I didn't want her back. Then came an invitation I never expected, a conference on women in leadership. They asked me to speak, not as a survivor, but as a builder. I flew out that weekend, nervous but determined. Standing in that room, filled with faces from every age and background, I shared the one lesson that changed everything. Your silence does not protect you, but your truth can heal someone else. Afterward, women approached me, some with tears, others with gratitude. One whispered, "I'm sending that email tonight." I knew exactly what she meant. The company's annual Q&A with shareholders was approaching, and for the first time, I was asked to sit at the panel. It wasn't a gesture, it was strategy. They wanted credibility, and for better or worse, I had become the symbol of it. Still, I made one thing clear to Vincent. I won't lie for anyone. "You won't have to," he said. I wasn't so sure. The night before the meeting, I received an anonymous envelope at home. Inside, a printout, a transaction, recent, signed by someone new. Another scheme, smaller, but real. Fresh corruption, just months after we started cleaning. I felt the blood drain from my face. Whoever sent it trusted me, but also warned me. Truth was still under threat. And if I exposed this tomorrow, I could burn what little goodwill I had left. I called Marlene. "I don't know if I can do it again," I whispered. She didn't hesitate. "You already did it once. You know how?" It nearly broke me, but it built something better. I stayed up the whole night, praying, reading, waiting. By dawn, I knew what I had to do. At the shareholder meeting, the room buzzed with anticipation. Vincent spoke first. Then the CFO's replacement gave a spotless report. Then it was my turn. I stood. "This company has been through a transformation," I began. "But no transformation is ever complete. The moment we believe the work is done is the moment we lose everything we fought for." I pulled out the printout, and that's why I'm showing you this. Gasps, a few murmurs. This is a transaction that took place last month, unapproved, undisclosed, and completely unethical. Silence. I will not allow our integrity to be a seasonal campaign. It must be our daily standard. I sat down and waited for the fire. The room didn't explode. It froze. Vincent's face was unreadable. The CFO shifted in his seat, visibly rattled. One shareholder raised a hand. "Are you saying the reforms failed?" I stood again. I'm saying they're working." "How do you figure?" Someone else called. Because this time, the truth didn't stay hidden. Someone spoke up. Someone believed we were ready to handle it. And I meant that with every breath in my chest. Vincent leaned forward. "We take these allegations seriously. We'll investigate immediately." But I didn't sit down. "I already did," I said, voice firm. "The documents have been verified. The person responsible was offered a choice: resign or be named today. They chose to resign." A ripple moved through the room. I continued. "What we do next determines who we are, not just as a business, but as people." I locked eyes with the board. Do we protect comfort, or do we protect character? Another pause. Then applause, not thunderous, but strong, deliberate. After the meeting, Vincent approached me in the hallway. "I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to survive this year," I said. "But here we are." He exhaled. "You've become the backbone of our credibility." I nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure that spine doesn't bend again." He extended his hand. I shook it. But I didn't smile. Because this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something harder. Sustaining change is harder than starting it. That night, back at home, I looked at myself in the mirror. 54. Lines on my face. Fire in my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because I was in power, but because I was standing in truth. 6 months later, the company was different. Not perfect, but different. Every department had a transparency lead. Every new hire went through ethics training, led by people like Marlene. We lost some clients. We gained better ones. And me? I stepped down from the ethics committee last week. Not because I was tired, but because it was time to let others rise. Leaders aren't meant to stay on pedestals forever. They're meant to lift others onto them. Now, I spend my mornings at the community center, teaching financial independence to women who thought life had passed them by. Widows, divorcees, grandmothers raising grandchildren, women like me. One afternoon, a woman pulled me aside after class. She had silver hair and eyes full of fight. "Are you the one from the news?" I smiled. "That depends on what you heard." She held my hand. "I heard you didn't stay silent." Tears welled in my eyes. "No," I whispered, "I didn't. And neither should you." That night, I got home and found a letter on my porch. Handwritten, no return address. Inside, one sentence. "Because of your email, I found the courage to send mine." No signature, but it didn't matter. It was enough because stories ripple and truth multiplies. And faith? Faith doesn't end in applause or awards. It ends in peace. Real, quiet, unshakable peace. And that was the reward I never expected.